everyone, I'm going to show you how to take this spooky pattern paper, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and make it into a mini album. All right, let's go. All right, before I get started with the actual tutorial, let me just talk about my supplies. Going to go through it real quickly. I do have other videos that explain it, and in my Ko-fi shop I have a list with links to all of the products. Let's start over here. So I like the 6-inch Scrapbook.com double-sided permanent adhesive. It's an investment. If you don't want to get this big 6-inch roll, it's an investment. You can buy the sheets or get smaller rolls. I also have like a 2-inch roll, so if you wanted to cover the chipboard, you just would put it down a couple of times. I like to use this for covering the chipboard. I feel like it saves me glue, it doesn't bubble, it's fast and economical. So there is that. I use most of the time for the smaller ones, 1/4-inch double-sided permanent adhesive from scrapbook.com. I use the Art Glitter Designer Dries Clear adhesive from scrapbook.com. My favorite bone folder is this. I keep saying Dress Your Craft. Is it Dress My Craft? Dress Your Craft. Anyhow, it's the number 2 nonstick bone folder. Whoops. It's beveled here. It's rounded. It comes to a point, but not a sharp point. And it's got a bevel here, which is nice. It's just, and it feels good in the hand. This is the number 2. There's one that's a little bit smaller. If you have smaller hands, you might like it. One thing people don't know about it is, like every once in a while, you might be scoring right against the edge of the chipboard and you'll see a little groove in it, and then you'll know you can take your emery board and sand that and just make it so it's gets that little bump out if you need to. I have it so it's not sharp. I mean, I'm not going to cut myself, but it helps take up the edge of double-sided adhesive, so I like that. I use the chipboard available at scrapbook.com. It's medium or heavyweight, I don't know. All right, and then a couple other things that I use that I got from scrapbook.com is I got a bundle. I think it was called the Spooky Bundle, which makes sense. So the inspiration was this really pretty Halloween paper pad that measures 4.25 by 5.5. So 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So obviously it's perfect for making cards. And I am going to make some cards with it, but that's what I'm using as inspiration for this cute little project. You don't have to cut this down. It's already cut for you. There's 5 of each pattern, so 40 sheets. So it's a really good value, and the patterns are just so cute. All right, so with that, I also got these shape dies. I guess this is called Ghost. This, you get Happy Halloween, you get Boo, and you get this cute little ghost, so I do use that. There is also this little stamp. Now, I looked to see if you could purchase it, and you can't. It is the Mini Boo Ghost. So it looks like that. Now, if you don't have that, you could use another stamp that's a ghost. Also with this bundle was the Spooky stamp set. I did not use this ghost, the Spider, the Witch Hat, Trick or Treat, Hey Pumpkin, that witch hat, or the bow tie, Beautiful Blessings, or How You Doing. But I did use the Happy Halloween. I didn't use the Happy Spooky Season, but I'm probably going to make cards and use that, and I definitely use this house. Now, it looks like these are already colored. I used orange archival ink. It doesn't ruin it, but it does stain the stamps. But I will show you the stamping later on. But I wanted to show you that came with a bundle, scrapbook.com. If you want to do your own, I don't think this is available, but you can get these and maybe make another album using the same tutorial, but whatever scrapbook.com has available as a bundle. Cardstock. So I'm using cardstock that's from my stash. I've purchased it all from scrapbook.com, but I don't keep it in the packaging, so I can't tell you the brand. Although this I can tell you was basil cardstock. It's dotted, it's purple, it's real pretty, but I did notice, I think it's alt new, and I think it's Pink Fresh, have a real pretty purple. I use 65-pound cardstock. I used that all for this. I have purple, yellow, pink, black, and white. I think that covers all the supplies. Now let's get started. So to start, I have 3 pieces of chipboard for the album cover. There's 2 pieces that are 5 by 6 and 1 piece that is 1 1/4 by 6. You could make it 1 1/2 if you wanted to, but 1 1/4 by 6. If you make it 1 1/2, you'll have to change the sizing. But anyhow, I've already put scrapbook.com double-sided permanent adhesive on all of my chipboard. I'm going to put that aside for a second. I have 2 pieces of cardstock, my purple cardstock, that are 8.5 by 8.5. I just cut 8.5 by 11 down. To start with, I'm going to actually turn this over and take my 1/4 inch double-sided permanent adhesive and put it along just one edge of the cardstock. See, I'll take my bone folder and lift up that. See how quickly and easily that works? I use my grid on my surface here, my non-stick cutting board. I have the bottom lined up, and I've got the side with the 1/4 inch score tape a 1/4 inch over my center line here. I'm going to take it and line this up with the bottom lined up on here, and I have it right there, and it just helps me line it up. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. It does not have to be perfect. But so now I have a piece of cardstock that is 16 3/4 inches by 8.5. So, grabbing my spine piece, the 1 1/4 by 6. And I'm going to put this here on the center. Just going to center it. Now, keep in mind that the edge of the paper is a 1/4 inch over from what you see here. So it's going to look like I'm going to not center it, but it actually is centered on where the seam is. Again, it's not critical. If it's not perfect, it's no big deal. As a matter of fact, it looks like that's 1 1/4 inch where I have 1 inch in the bottom. That is not going to hurt anything. All right, I'm going to take my double-sided, changing my lights a little bit, 1/4 inch tape, and I'm going to put 1 on one side of my chipboard spine piece and 1 on the other, right up against that chipboard. And I don't do anything neat when I cut my double-sided permanent adhesive. I just tear it. Some people are neater about it, but I mean, who's going to see it? Nobody's going to see it. So anyhow, I'll peel that off after I burnished it down. And now I will take my covers. Now, one thing I'll mention is I did burnish this real well, but do your best to burnish your double-sided permanent adhesive really well. You don't want any air bubbles. You don't want, over time, those air bubbles to get bigger and things not to stick. So just do a good job of burnishing. All right, so it's sticky now on the bottom. And I'm going to put it overlapping that 1/4 inch double-sided permanent adhesive about 1/3 over. I want there to be at least a little more than 1/8 of an inch, a little less than 1/4 of an inch. So what is that, 3/16? Yeah. So just make sure it's parallel. Just try to get it straight. So I put 1 down, and I will do the same with the other one. I have a pokey tool that helps me peel off that backing. And I will do the same and put this on. So what I do is I usually put like one little corner down. If I don't like it, I can always lift it up. And then once that's down, then I'll put it all down and I'll burnish. And I'll also take my bone folder now. Now it might stick to your surface because we've got some exposed permanent adhesive. So I'm going to take my bone folder and just go around the perimeter. Where is it? There it is. And just try to help train your paper to fold. Yeah, you hear it sticking. It's not a big deal. Okay. So now you can see where the chipboard is on the other side. Now, when we cut this, we cut it 8.5 by 8.5 just because it was easy. I'm actually going to cut this down. Sorry, it seems like I'm wasting a little paper, but we're just going to... You don't have to, but it's excessive. Don't need it. So now I'll turn it over so I can see better. So now I'm going to take my scissors and staying 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the chipboard, I'm going to cut straight across. Now it's better to be more than 1/8 of an inch than less. You don't want to come too close to it and have the chipboard showing. But you guys know there's an easy solution if for some reason you do. All you need to do is, you could take a marker maybe and color it, but all you need to do is glue that down on there if you cut off more than you wanted to. All right, I'm going to use my surface, oops, not that one, and bend the paper. Okay, now I usually don't use any permanent adhesive to hold this down, but this seems to be a little thicker than 65 pound, and I want to make sure it's going to stick. So I am going to put some double-sided permanent adhesive around some of the perimeter of our purple paper to cover. I'll go ahead and burnish that. And I'll peel it all off. I do have 2 trash cans right next to me that I put this in. One is for non-recyclable paper and one is for recyclable paper. Okay, now I'm going to take my art glitter glue and I'm going to run it along the edge of my chipboard. I'll do it both, on the 2 long sides. Do that first, give that a second to help move the fibers. It mingles with the fibers and makes it easy. And then I'll zigzag a little. You don't need much. And I'll just do one side at a time. I'm taking my bone folder with that little beveled slanted edge and I'm pushing my paper right up against the edge of the chipboard. It's at a right angle. And then I'll use my fingers and I'll sort of push up right against the edge of the chipboard, bend it down, bend it down. That permanent adhesive tape is going to stick, giving you a chance to distribute the glue and have that stick as well. Okay, now I'll add a little bit of glue here. I like to get it at the end, the edges here. Okay. And then do it right at the edge and burnish. Very good. Then I'll take my bone folder and just push it in at the edge just to make sure this will bend. I mean, it's not a big deal. If for some reason you see a little point sticking out, just hit it down with your bone folder. I'll go ahead and add glue here because it'll go fast. And again, push our cardstock right up against the edge and then burnish. And we'll do the same for this side. Oops. All right. Okay, now I'm going to take this pointed edge of my bone folder, and I'm going to go into the channel between the spine and the cover and push the top piece down to meet with the double-sided adhesive on the bottom piece. And then we'll bend the cover just to make sure it has a good fold to it. And we'll do the same with this other side. I use my hand and move this up a little bit as I go. And there we go. So, and then I'll manipulate it a little bit. And there we go. The cover is covered. I like to take my bone folder, go along the very edge of the cover. It doesn't do anything but give me satisfaction. I mean, maybe it does. I don't know. All right. Now, let's make some pages. Okay, wait. Before we make the pages, we're going to cover the inside. Now, truth be told, I don't always do that, but because of the page style we're using, we're not doing a hinge. I am going to do that. Plus, it makes it look prettier. So I have two pieces that are 5 7/8. This one is by 6. This one's by 6 1/2. So 5 7/8 by 6, 5 7/8 by 6 1/2. We're going to work on the 5 7/8 by 6. So it's 5 7/8 to the top. I'm going to turn it over and take my double-sided permanent adhesive tape and put some on. I'm about 1/4 inch away from the edge. I don't want to go right to the edge for the sides and the top and bottom. And then I am going to use the glue, my art glitter glue, go around the perimeter and then fill in. Now, like I said, with this glue, you don't need a heck of a lot, but I do want to make sure that what's going to cover the spine is going to adhere real well. I'm adding some glue to the edge of the spine and the edge of the cover, and I'll put some in that crevice. And then I'm going to put it about 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. I'm putting it over here because I can still slide it if it's off. And then I will go ahead and put down the part that's got the tape. We'll go ahead and burnish into that crevice. Now, so to burnish, I'm going to go back and forth a bunch of times. Just every time you do it, the paper will bend a little bit more. Now, if I move this up too much, you're going to have a little bubble here. The trick to that is just burnish it real well and don't move it until your glue is dried. Okay, we'll do the same with here, but we're going to add more tape to the edge. The reason we're going to do that is, I'll turn it this way. I want there to be tape sticking all on the spine, but I want to make sure I can add some glue too. And I'm putting it down and I see, you know, I feel like I want to cut this down. So was it actually 6 1/2? Yeah. I'm going to just cut Oh, I don't know. Maybe an eighth of an inch off. Because I don't want the edge of this to go over where our fold is. And that's much better. Okay, so I'll put that piece down. And I'm going to put it right on here so I can see, I can visualize. Here's where my crevice is. So you could use maybe a piece of thicker scrapbook.com tape. I'm just using 2. Let's burnish that real well. And yes, I did see this was a little bit too much. I'm just going to cut that off. And then we'll peel off our backing. Okay. Now I'm going to add glue. So we'll go around outside of this glue. Add a bunch here because this is the spine. We're going to have other pieces resting on here. Our pages are going to rest on here. I don't want anything to happen to what we are doing with the spine. All right, now we'll go around the perimeter here. And I will, again, put some glue here, just so I know it's going to be the edge of the spine, and put it in the crevice and on the other side of what will be the front cover. And then I'll turn this over, and I've already figured out where it needs to be. So I put it down and burnish. Now there are several layers here on the spine. It's got a bump where the cover piece came. It's not a big deal. Just burnish. Yes, I did see a little glue come out. We'll just clean that up. Okay, and then I will again find that channel. Call it a crevice. Channel, is that a better word? And we'll go back and forth. I'll lift up the cover. Some of it's going to catch where we've got that double-sided tape in the center, and we have glue on the edge just to make sure it catches. And then I'll burnish it again and let it dry flat while we're working on the pages. So for this, we're going to need our scoreboard. And for the first piece, so this is a piece that is 8.5 by 11. Yeah, you don't even have to cut it if you're not working with 12 by 12. So for the 8.5 by 11, we are going to put it the top of the scoreboard. And I use a stylus rather than the bone folder that came with the scoreboard. This is from my Cricut, and it's got a metal tip, and I just like it. So anyhow, with the 11-inch side at the top of the scoreboard, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. Oops, it's slipping on me. I want to make sure it stays to the side and the top. 1/2 inch. 5. 6. And 10.5. All right. Now, this paper seemed to be fighting me a little bit, so I'm going to turn it over and score it again. I don't usually have to do that, and probably if I used a different color and didn't have the dots on it, it would have been fine, but I just scored it on that side. All right, so now the 8.5-inch side is at the top of my scoreboard, and I am going to score it at 5 3/4. And we'll do it again here. Okay, 5 3/4. Let's move the scoreboard Actually, we have another piece that is 10.5 by 5 3/4. The page size is going to be 4.5 by 5 3/4. Let's grab that scoreboard. And with the 10.5 side at the top, we're going to score it 1/2 inch, 5, 5.5, and 10. 1/2 inch, 5, 5.5, and 10. Okay, now we have our 2-page. I mean, we'll have more than 2, but or 2-page pieces. Okay. All right, so this piece, the first one, the 8.5 by 11. So we've got this line that's at 5 3/4. This piece, these 2 pieces are going to make our pockets. We're going to have to trim some excess that we don't need. I'm going to use my scissors. I like these long blade scissors. We need, I can find my white marker. No, of course I can't. No. We don't need this piece. So this piece that's 2 3/4, we're going to cut at a diagonal up to where those 2 score lines intersect. Just go right up to that. And we'll do it over here as well. And then I'm going to go from the top down. I'm going to cut right in the center of that score line. And I'll turn this over and do the same here. Now you could put it in your paper trimmer. It's easier for me to show you if I cut it myself. All right, so these can go out. Those are too small to be of use. All right, now we've got this 1-inch piece in the center. We're going to, if you need to draw a line, but I'm going to cut right up to that score line in the center of that channel. Wasn't that fun? Let's go ahead and miter this little piece. And since we did that one, let's do this one. Okay, now, if you're good with scissors, you probably don't need the tools. I'm going to get another cutting board, put it down just so I don't make marks in my surface. And I'm going to go across this 1-inch piece on this score line, just right across. And then I'm going to go at an angle. So I'm basically taking out a little triangle. Okay. So what we're doing is making a pocket page. All right, let's fold and burnish on our score lines. I'm going to fold here and burnish here, burnish here. Open that up. I'm going to fold here and burnish here. Although we're going to fold it a different way, I'm just burnishing it. These little flaps here. And then we're going to fold these and burnish. And although there is a right and a wrong side to my paper, it really doesn't matter. Most paper is not going to have a right and wrong side, and you actually won't be able to tell what's the right and wrong side once you decorate. So it doesn't matter which side you determine is going to be up front. So we've got these 2 pockets. Let's go ahead and glue them down. So I'll add glue to these tabs. actually all 4 tabs. I'm going to do 2 at once. Oops. All right, fold and burnish. And fold and burnish. So there you go. You've got pockets. You've got 2 pocket pages with a 1-inch gusset. Let's put that aside and let's work on this. Let's just fold and burnish on our score lines. When you fold, make sure your bottom and top stay straight. Now, we don't need to miter these because we're going to cut these down later, but I'm not going to do it yet. All right, let's grab our book. So it should have dried. If this is where you want to go have lunch or something, go do that. I am going to... The pockets are going to be on the inside, so have the pockets facing each other and then turn it over so the pockets are facing down. I'm going to add a couple of lines of our double-sided permanent adhesive tape, but I've got 1/8 of an inch so I can add glue to it as well. I like using 2 kinds of glue. My theory is one will hold if the other one, for some reason, gives up the ghost. So go ahead and take off the backing. And I will add glue. So try to stay away from the edge or the fold lines. And I don't like to add glue on top of the tape. I think it defeats the purpose of having the tape, but I do go right up against that. Okay. Now let's grab the book. All right, so since we've already folded this, I can hold it together so those pockets are together. I'm going to turn it on its side so I can see a little better. And I'm going to center this on there. Center it top to bottom and side to side. So there should be about 1/4 of an inch showing. It needs to be over a little. Okay, that's good. All right. When you have it down, you feel like it's pretty straight, go ahead and burnish. And then fold the page and burnish right at the edge. And then open it and then fold this and burnish here as well. A little bit of glue seeping out, but not much. And then I'll burnish here. Again. So that is our first 2 pages. So now we have this. So it doesn't matter which is front and back. These are the same. But I do want to make sure this gets centered again in the center of this. So this is 1/2 inch. I'm going to add my 1/4 inch score tape to the very center. Burnish that down real good. Peel off the backing. Oh, come on. Making a liar out of me saying how easy it is. And then I'll add glue just around that. Just a little thin bead of glue. Okay. And I'll hold this, center this piece on. So again, there should be about 1/4 of an inch. Now the top of this one should match with the top of the last one you put down. I'm just placing it down. I'm not burnishing yet. Going to place it down and make sure it's straight. And once I feel like it's straight, then I'll go ahead and burnish. Burnish that and then move the one page to the right, move both pages to the left, burnish, and then open it again. I'm going to take my tip and burnish it here. All right. All right, make sure you've got the pocket in the right orientation now. And if you want to burnish some more, let it dry for a little bit before we mess with it. But let's pretend that I did let it dry before we mess with it. Now I have 2 pieces. No. Wait. Two pieces that are 6 by 4.5. 6 by 4.5. Grab our handy dandy scoreboard, and with the 6-inch side at the top, scored at 3 for both of those. And let's fold and burnish on our score lines. So these are going to be little pockets that we're going to adhere to these 2 center pages. And that's why we have these little flaps. So what I'm going to do is open it up. I'm going to add glue to the left-hand side. Just a bead of glue. Maybe about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to center it on this page. Put it up against that little tab, that flap, and then push this down so it will adhere on that glue. Then I'm going to add glue onto this tab. And along the bottom, along the bottom. And then we'll fold this over, burnish, especially the bottom. Okay, leave that. Let's do the other side. So I'll add glue on the left-hand side. I'm sorry, the right-hand side. Did I get my directions wrong? Put this on and just try to line it up with the other one. I'm going to push this tab down and burnish. Add glue to the tab. Of course, you're just going to add glue where it's going to adhere. You don't need it at the top and bottom. Whoops, and the bottom. Put it on the bottom. And then burnish. Okay, so now we have these little flaps showing that we're going to take care of. I'm taking a small pair of scissors and I'm cutting with the edge of the scissors along our little pocket, cutting right up to that score line. Doing the same over here. And then I'll cut I'm twisting it because I don't want to tear it. cut on the score line. Cut up or down on the score line. There we go. Do the same for this guy. And here. And cut on the score line. Okay. And that is really the basic construction of our book. Now, if you have magnets, you can use magnets here. You don't have to, though. And so we have the cover. And by the way, if you haven't, move this page back and forth, burnish it again, and just make sure it folds easy. So here's the front cover, the inside cover, the front of page 1, the back of page 1, which has the pocket, front of page 2, the back of page 2, which has a flap, front of page 3, which has a corresponding flap, back of page 3, front of page 4 with a pocket, back of page 4, and the back cover. So now we get to decorate it. All right, I'm going to give you the basics of decorating it. So again, as I told you, since our paper is 4.25 by 5.5, let's say, closed on there, let's say, and this is what I'm choosing to use as the cover, because why not? Although this is also adorable, but I'm using this as a cover. So you could put that down, but I like to do some extra matting and have 1 or 2 different layers just to sort of bring your eye into it. Another thing you could do with this page is actually cut it down. There's a lot of white space on the side. You could cut it down almost an inch because there's 1/2 inch white space on each side and probably 3/4 of an inch on the top and maybe 1/4 inch on the bottom if you wanted to. The first layer for me for the covers, front and back, inside and outside covers, is a piece that's just 1/8 of an inch smaller. So since this is 5 by 6, 4 7/8 by 5 7/8 is the measurement. So I'm going to cut 3 of those in yellow, and I'm going to glue them onto the front cover, the back inside cover, and the back outside cover, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it. There's going to be 1/8 of an inch all around. Now I do realize I have my measurements upside down here. It says 4 7/8 by 5 7/8. Oh, see, I did write it down on all 3 of those pieces. The front inside cover I'm using a different color for because I'm using paper to coordinate with that. So I'm putting this on. I'm sort of dangerously close to this channel, but it's not over it. So just try to keep it out of the channel. If for some reason it's close, just trim down your paper. It means perhaps that, I'm sorry, I'll try to stay where we can see it. Maybe your chipboard was smaller, maybe your paper was thinner, I don't know. So many different reasons why. When we all start out with the same size, it doesn't always end up the same size. Okay, and then for the front inside cover, we are using a piece that is, again, 4 7/8 by 5 7/8. That'll go on the front inside cover. I know this is very boring to watch somebody glue, but that's all right. You can craft along with me. I always tell people your best bet is to watch this video and get the idea of the orders of operation, and then you can do your own thing. All right, now for the front cover, I have a piece that's 4.5. It's by 5 7/8. It shouldn't be. Did I write that down wrong? Black. 4.5, 5 5/8. So let me cut that down. 4.5, 5 5/8. Just really cutting 1/4 of an inch off of this. There we go. 4.5, 5 5/8. And we're going to center this on the yellow on the front. All right, and then for my front piece, we have Happy Halloween. I am going to trim it down because there's not the exact right border on it. It probably was when I cut, not the page. But I want the border to be even. Okay, that looks good. Another thing you could do is before you put down pages, things for the front cover, or even after you put it down, you could always make a hole, but you could use ribbon to tie this down. Okay. So there's our front cover. So now for the inside cover, I wanted a white piece. That would be 5 5/8 by 4 3/8. Yeah. And then I am using the skeleton paper. And while we're here, I'm going to take out the eyeball paper. Whoops, wrong way. All right, I'm going to just glue this onto here. There's a 1/16 of an inch border. I just wanted a teeny little border just so this paper is, you can differentiate between the paper and our black cardstock. I will also tell you that there is an uneven matte margin on here because the cover is 5 by 7, and the paper we're using is card size 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So you'll see there's a little bigger matte margin there, but if I didn't point it out to you, you probably wouldn't have noticed it. All right, we're going to take the eyeballs and we're going to glue that down to the front of page 1. Now there's not an uneven matte margin on these pages. It looks it because of this, because of the channel, but it's not uneven. All right, now we get to play with our pockets. So for the pockets, we're using this paper. So you'll need 2 of those. All right, let's start with the easy one. And let's put this one piece on the front of page 2. And as I'm gluing, you'll see this real pretty paper, this pretty pink. We're going to be using that. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we're going to add some things to this pocket before we glue this down. So you should have a yellow piece that is 2.5 by 4.25. And also you should have a white piece that is smaller. Where's my white piece? 2 3/8 by 4. Okay, let's glue the 2 3/8 by 4 white piece of cardstock onto the 2.5 by 4.25 yellow piece of cardstock. And then we're going to have to cut this down. So we want this to be let me see how tall. About 2.25 tall. I'm making it a little smidgen less, not even a 1/16 of an inch. And then I want it, let's see how big that's going to be. 3 7/8. 3 7/8. Okay, so this will be glued. Now, you could do it the other way. You could have pink over here, like switch it up. A pink over there and pattern, pink here, pattern there. But I liked having it there. All right, let's glue this onto the pocket. So by having 2 layers of cardstock, that means that I can save this piece and tuck this into the pocket, and even with 1/8 of an inch around it, it can still be tucked into the pocket, and you don't see, well, number one, you don't see the white edge because I tore it terribly, but you don't see the bottom of the paper. Just make sure you get it inside the pocket flaps, what we use to create that pocket. So I'm going to center it on the page and then burnish. And I'll make sure I burnish in here in this pocket. All right, so there is the back of page 1, front of page 2. That was easy, huh? All right, let's play with these. So for this, all right, you need 4 pieces that coordinate. So 2 of these pieces we're going to put down here. And then these other ones we're going to cut in half. So it's 4.25 by 5.5. We're going to cut it at 2 3/4. So it'll be 4.25 by 2 3/4. So cut both those pieces. So we'll go ahead and glue them on. All right, back of page 3 and front of page 4 is the same as the back of page 1, front of page 2, but in reverse. So I am using the spiders to go on the back of page 3. And then for the pocket, I've got a black piece of cardstock that's 2.5 by 4.25, and a white piece of cardstock that is 2 3/8. Oh, 2 3/8 by 3. Why did I put 4? By 3 and by 4. 2 3/8 by 4. Was that the same measurement as what I used last time? I don't think so. But determine which look you like better. I think I might have had a bigger matte margin. And then the spiders come here on the white. Probably should have done it reverse. White and then black, but that's okay. And then the spider web's going to go in the pocket. So I'll go ahead and add glue. Make sure that goes on the flaps and it's centered on the page. And there we go for that. Alrighty, now all we need to do is the back of page 4. Oops, I got glue on there. And front of, and the back inside cover. So for the back inside cover, all right, I have spooky paper, and this is going to go on the back of page 4. And for the back inside cover, I have 4 3/8 by 5 5/8. And on top of that, I am going to put the candy corn paper. Alrighty. Back outside cover. So I have the yellow, and on top of that I need pink, then black, and then my pattern paper. Alright, so I have pink paper that's 4.5 by 5.5, black paper that is 4 3/8 by 5 3/8, and I have cut this down a little to 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. I'm sad to have to cover that, but I love this pattern, and I wanted to put this on the back. So this will go on to the black. I liked having the black to pull out the black in this paper, the bats and the Happy Halloween banners, and that'll go on here. And that will go on here. Alrighty. And then for the spine, 1.5 by 5 5/8 for yellow, 1 1/4. It's 5 3/8, but it should have been maybe 5 1/2. What's this one? This one is 1 inch by 5 1/8. So this should have been 1 by 5 1/4, and this should be 1 1/4 by 5 1/2. But you know what? It's okay. It's all good. And that goes on the spine. So I'll open it up to put that on. All right, we're doing pocket inserts. So these are like photo mats, or you could journal on them. They're not going to have pattern paper, but they will have a little decoration. So you'll need 2 pieces that are 5 1/4 by 4 and 4 pieces that are 3 3/4 by 5. And we'll just glue everything on. You could, if you wanted to, round the corners or use some kind of corner punch. Or if you wanted to, you could add different color paper, but I like having the white to add the photos to. And that'll give you something to put inside the pocket. So there's that one. And there's that. And then for here, we need some tags to put in the pockets. All right, so tags need to be 2 3/4 by 4, or you could make it a little bit longer. I'm just sticking them in here. I will get some ribbon on them. And I have these extra tags. What do these measure? 1 7/8 by 3. So this will go in a tuck spot. But we can add some different things. Let me show you how I'm going to stamp and color some images. All right, it's time to go in fast motion. I am just simply using a stamping platform and stamping with, this actually is Honeybee, what is it called? Intense Black Alcohol Marker Friendly ink. So I'm just stamping, and I am not sure if I'm going to be using all these images, but I'll use them on cards if I don't. So here I wanted to show you, I am taking I've made a stamped image and I cut out parts that I want to do in black. And so then I put ink on that area that I want in black. It's a little ghost and a bat. And then I take a little piece of paper and cover that so it doesn't end up colored in orange. And then I go ahead and stamp it in orange so those areas will remain black. So I generally try to stamp everything and then color everything. I am using a light gray to color around this ghosty. It's hard to see. Then I'm using some purple. Only using a couple of different colors. I'm not using 3. I like to usually use 3, but in this case it's such a small image that I'm just using, actually now here on the banner of the ghosty, I'm just using one single color. So I'll go ahead and color. While it is a lot of fun to do, it may not be that much fun to watch. So that's why I'm going in fast motion. I also am taking scissors and fussy cutting this. Sometimes I will purchase dies, but sometimes I'm just gonna go ahead and fussy cut it. All right, I'm coloring the pumpkins. I'm making 3 different color pumpkins, a pink, a light orange, and a dark orange. I'm coloring that light orange one with sort of a yellow ochre, and then I will go through on that third one and darken it up. And then fussy cut these pumpkins as well. I'm cutting around the Happy Halloween sentiment, not really too close, but trying to pay attention a little bit to the curves. Then I'll go ahead and glue it on some orange cardstock, and then I'll cut around this even a little wider just to add a little oomph to it. And now I'm going to color in those houses. So I thought it'd be fun to use lots of pinks and oranges on this. Again, it was stamped in orange, and it's archival ink, so it's not going to smear with my alcohol markers. So I just start with some detail-y areas and then go through and color it. I really like these houses. I'm making them as part of a cut apart, but I can see coloring them in all sorts of different shades. I mean, you can go dark and moody with some grays, or you can even make it even brighter color than what we've got, or use lots of purples. So anyhow, I will go ahead and then I put some ink along the outside of the 3x4 card, and then I'm taking my marker, a fine tip marker, and I'm just going around the edge and adding a couple of details to it. All right, so here's the Happy Halloween. I'm adding glue to the bottom 1/4 inch, and I am going to glue that onto the bottom here. And what that does is it makes it a tuck spot. And that means you can take a photo and stick it in there. So there is that. And then we're just going to add a photo here, but for the top of our photo mat, going through my bag of tricks. I am just going to put Happy Halloween, and I'm going to add glue to the top 1/8 of an inch. And again, it's going to be a tuck spot. So even though I'm doing white on white, you could do any colors. Use the scraps of what we have left and just cut away, but that makes another tuck spot. So there is that. All right, so for here, we've got these 2 ghosties. So we can put these here. Now you could do 2 things. Either you could just glue it down and use that as a spot to journal, but the only thing I'd warn you is just be careful when you're opening and closing the book. Or we can just glue it on the side. And then that makes a nice tuck spot. So I'll glue that one on the right side. This one I'll glue on the left side. And just sort of have them so they're one's tilted a little one way and one's tilted a little the other way. And then you can use that to put little photos here or just make it a little tuck spot. So there is that. For here, I've got another black and white. This one is Boo from our little... You could put it here. If you want to decorate down there, you are welcome to. But that makes a tuck spot for that. And then here I'm going to put the ghost. And that'll be a tuck spot. And I've got a banner which actually came from a lawn fawn a couple years ago. No, you don't have to put anything here, but I had it in my stash and I thought the colors were perfect. And then the final thing is, I mean, I do need to add that, but, and I think I might do something with the cover, but, so I've got these pumpkins, so we can add these to a photo. And then here are the houses that I've already cut, and I've cut these purple pieces are 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. I have a 3 by 4 piece of cardstock on the back. Oops. And I'm going to put this 3 by 4 card on the front. It just sort of pulls in that haunted house that we have on the cover. And you can put those in the pockets. Again, it just sort of pulls it all together and you could put it in there. All right, let me do a walkthrough and show you the final details. You know, and I say final details, I'm thinking I need some enamel dots somewhere here on the cover. So I will do that. Another thing you could do is make this a shaker, which I could have done because I took this, I had a frame and I cut it out and added some glitter to the front. So there is that. Also, you could maybe fussy cut this and raise that up and make it dimensional. So lots of things to do with the cover. Yeah, so I added in some photos. I don't have all of them in, but you get the idea. So here we have this front with the skeletons. This is a tuck spot photo. Now this photo measures, with the mat, it's about 2 3/4 by 4. That's my son. It was a toilet paper contest. Whoever can dress your partner as a mummy with toilet paper won. And my son and his partner won because he was the smallest at the time. Anyhow, and then daughter looking cool. Um, and then this goes in the pocket, so there's room to put a photo on the back of that. And here is, there we go. Here is room to put a photo. And there is the kid. She was a environmental engineer. He's some kind of Pokemon, I think. And she is wearing a 50s skirt. So anyhow, that is tucked right in there. And of course you could add more things to the pocket. Here is the kids again dressed up. This is about a 4x4 photo-ish. Kitty cat, baseball player, McDonald's French fries. So that's the kids. Hey, pumpkin, that was from the stamp set. I just stamped it on white, put it on pink, put it on yellow. I didn't add photos to here yet, but I will. Here are the tags. I didn't do much except for add some glitter ribbon and tied it with some fun fur and just some other chenille ribbon. So there is that. Just a smaller picture. I think it's 4.5 by 3.5. And I took a paper clip and added a little bit of tulle to it on the top just to add a little spider webby sort of thing. And then the back here, I used that as a tuck spot. This is not the kids. This is Stephen King's place in Maine. I just thought it was a fun little photo, and it goes with spooky. And of course you can add photos to here as well. There is the tag. That is a lawn fawn stamp, but you really could just draw a candy corn. Just make it look just like that if you wanted to. And then there's the ghost die that came with the die set that went with this whole thing. And there we are to the back. There is our spine. And so that is it. That is how I used the 4.25 by 5.5 paper, which is really meant for cards, but to make an adorable little mini album. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I don't have the measurements written down. It just was something I wanted to put together using these fabulous papers that came from scrapbook.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.